Hello everyone. For a while now, people have requested if I could dive into any of the other Blizzard franchises out there, but the problem has always been that I'm not familiar with the lore. Wouldn't you know it, one of my guildies, the one and only Neviriah, she's actually really into Diablo lore, and together we made today's video for you. In spirit of Halloween, and just because it's fun to try out some new things, we're diving into a little Diablo origin story, and hopefully we'll do many more of these in the future. If you want to check out more Neviriah stuff, you can find it over on Twitch, where she streams nearly every day. Link to her channel in the description down below. Right everyone, you might have already been able to tell, I am really excited about this one. Let's get the story started. At the beginning of all things, there was a void. No flesh, no rock, no air, no light, no heat, not even darkness. Absolutely nothing but a single perfect pearl. We don't know where this pearl came from or why it was there, it just was. We do know, however, that it was the Skatsini sage Lum Essen that has written down part of this history. Within this pearl lied the first being in creation, a mighty and unfathomable spirit, the first entity that ever existed, known as Anu, made of shining diamonds. Anu, which was often also referred to as the Diamond Warrior, was the sum of all things combined. Good and evil, light and dark, physical and mystical, joy and sadness, and so on. Within its eternal dream state, contained inside the pearl, Anu reflected and considered itself and all of its facets and sides, eventually seeking a state of total perfection and purity. However, as an entity that contains not only all of the light and good, but also the darkness and evil within, it was impossible to just shove aside the bad and in doing so become pure. This meant that in order to reach the state of purity and perfection that Anu was seeking, Anu had to cast all evil away from itself. Afterwards, all dissonance was gone, at least for a while. However, these cast-off aspects, they could not simply vanish or disappear into thin air. The dark parts, the searing aspects of hate, evil, pride, everything that was, quite literally the bad side of Anu, it could not remain in a state of separation. It was due to this fact that those parts then assembled themselves into the dragon that is now known as Tatamet. This so-called evil part of Anu, it was truly a beast. The dragon breathed unending death and darkness from its 7 devouring heads and was solely composed of Anu's bad parts. The end sum of the whole became a singular evil, the primeval, from which all vileness would eventually spread throughout existence. Although they were separate beings, both parts of this once mighty entity, they were stuck together within the pearl-shadowed womb. Forced to share their presence, they warred against each other in an unending clash of light and shadow for countless of ages. The power of both entities was absolutely equal, neither ever gained the upper hand. Until one day, after a time unknown, their energies nearly spent after so many millennia of battle, Anu and Tatamet, they delivered their final blows against each other. In that moment, the energy that was unleashed by their fury, it ignited an explosion of light and matter so vast and so terrible that it birthed the very universe that is now known within the world of Diablo. Everything that there is to see, feel and hear, everything that is known and everything that isn't, was birthed into existence by the end of this very battle between the Diamond Warrior Anu and the 7-headed dragon Tatamet. And in the epicenter of that last final blow, there lies Pandemonium, also known as the scar of the universe's violent birth. Within its center, the heart of creation can be found, a massive jewel that is known as the World Stone. It is the foundation stone of all places and times, a nexus of realities and vast untold possibility. And the name World Stone that exists due to the jewel's ability to literally create worlds, which we'll cover in another video. Although Anu and Tatamet are no more, the distinct essences, it permeated the universe and became the bedrock of what we know as the high heavens and the burning hells. Anu's spine spun out in the primordial darkness, where it slowed and cooled. Over countless ages, it formed into the crystal arc, around which the high heavens took shape and form. And though Anu was gone, some resonance of it remained within the holy arc. Spirits fled from it and formed shining angels of light and sound. These angels then embodied the virtuous aspects of what the One had been. Depending on the text, Anu was sometimes referred to as the One or the Diamond Warrior. And just as heaven cooled in the spaces above, Tatame's blackened smoldering husk spiraled into the lower darkness of reality. From its putrid flesh grew the realms of the burning hells. The dragon's 7 severed heads, it arose as the 7 evils, the 3 strongest of which would be known as the Primevals. Along with their 4 lesser brethren, they would rule over the ravening, demonic horde that spawned like maggots from the desiccated cavities of the burning hells. All of these moments would eventually lead to all of what we know now. In time, many battles raged, and thus came to be known as the Eternal Conflicts. This, however, is also a story for another time. Eventually we'll talk about the Eternal Conflict in much more detail.
What is the primeval?
It is the sum total of all 7 evils housed within one body. There is an ancient legend, known only to a few, of the great dragon Tathamet, who was the original embodiment of evil. The legend says that he was ripped apart during an epic battle with Anu, and that the burning hells are composed of his remains.
Who is Anu?
Just as Tathamet was the ultimate evil, Anu was the ultimate good. It is said by some that the Crystal Arch is all that remains of this great warrior.
So Diablo is the dragon reborn?
In a manner of speaking, yes.
Not much more can be said of Anu and the 7-headed dragon Tatamet. Over millennia, many scholars have interpreted the history in various different ways. The existence of Anu is known to some of the humans, though interpretations, they differ. Some of the more primitive cultures, they view the above tale as being absolutely true, while other scholars and mystics, they take it as being an elaborate metaphor for good and evil and the constant, warring dynamics seen amongst the forces of nature. In some legacies, it is also written that when Anu died, it transcended into a benevolent place beyond the universe, a paradise of which nothing is known. In our universe, however, as it is known, its legacy remains. The Eye of Anu, which would later be known as the World Stone, it remained at the center of creation as the foundation of all places, times, and possibilities. Furthermore, it's also believed by many scholars that archangels of the Engiris Council are living embodiments of the virtues of Anu. And although some aspects have changed for the angels, the beings Imperius, Tyrael, Auriel, Ithiriel, and Malfiel represented Anu's virtues of valor, justice, hope, faith, and wisdom respectively. Zoltun Kulle once argued that it was humans, not angels, who were the true inheritors of Anu. His reason for said belief was that it was only when Anu rejected his darker half that true evil and suffering was born. In Zoltun's mind, unlike Anu, humanity had to embrace its inner demons and be all the stronger for it. Now, even within the game, especially Diablo 3, there are some scenes and quests and even items which still talk about Anu and the history of this world. One example would be a ring which can be found within Diablo 3. This ring is called Rogar's Huge Stone. Inside the history of Diablo, some believe that this ring was fashioned from Anu's crystallized blood, and underneath it, the details of the item, you can read the following.
The history of the large azure gem set in this ring is unknown. Some scholars surmise it was crafted by the ancient Nephilim using techniques now lost, while others believe it was fashioned from the crystallized blood of Anu himself. Regardless of its origin, the gem acts as a lodestone for arcane power, drawing it in, and then focuses it through its facets to heal the ring's wearer.
Another in-game item, called the Oculus Ring. It makes a reference to the one god in Diablo 3. This is possibly also another reference to Anu. There are many little details within the world of Diablo, and once you get to know the story better, little hints here and there become more and more interesting and actually fun to check out. Most of the players only play the game for the grind, but once in a while you'll find an item, or shall we say gem in this case, and it feels good to know what the meaning behind it is, or where it actually comes from. The story of Diablo is deep, and there's much more to talk about. We'd love to do more videos in the future, so by all means, let us know in the comments down below what you thought of this one. You could also subscribe if you like my videos, leave a like if you enjoyed this one, and until next time, see ya!